Welcome to this week's What's for Dinner video. My name is Ashley. I'm going to be showing you 3 different meals I made this week. I don't always follow recipes exactly, but if you are interested, I've linked some similar recipes down below. The first dinner I'm going to be showing you, I made some chicken burrito bowls. So I'm just going to start out with 2 chicken breasts that I butterflied in half. We will be also having this for leftovers the next day, so I made a lot of chicken. I'm just seasoning my chicken with some paprika, some cumin, Montreal chicken seasoning, and some chicken bouillon powder. So I'm just giving this a nice mix, and then I will be grilling this on a pan with some oil. The McCormick Montreal chicken seasoning is like the best chicken seasoning, but it does have a lot of salt. Before I start cooking the chicken, I'm going to start working on some of the sides. So I am just going to cook 1 cup of white rice. I also am going to start warming up my pinto beans. This is just from a can. I don't really know if I'm doing this part correctly, but it just worked out fine. I also did put a little bit of salt and some chicken bouillon powder in these beans. So once that's all warmed up, I'm just going to start laying my chicken down in my pan. I do just put all 4 in the pan. It's not a big deal to me. They will all get cooked through. I do have my pan set on about medium high. It's about a 6 or a 7. I do this because I do want the chicken to brown on both sides. So once one side is nice and brown, I'm just going to flip them. Here's where I bring in the lid. I like to put a lid on top just to keep the heat and the moisture inside to help it cook all the way through. So while that finishes cooking, I'm just going to chop 1 head of romaine lettuce. This is kind of inspired from the Chipotle burrito bowls. I love a lot of lettuce on my burrito bowls, especially this size. So I'm just going to get that all chopped up and then washed. I also love Chipotle's corn salsa, but I didn't feel like dirtying up another pot, so I just microwaved some canned corn and it worked out just fine. I'm also going to make a little bit of guacamole, so I just put 1 avocado in a bowl. I don't have to get fancy with my guacamole when I'm just making it really quickly. I just use some lime juice, some garlic salt, and some pepper, and this did the job. Once the chicken was done, I let it rest for a couple minutes. That's important to make sure it stays nice and juicy, and then I'm just going to chop it up into small bite-sized pieces. We don't have any bowls big enough for the burrito bowls, so we just used a plate. This is how everything looked when it was done, and then we just drizzled some salsa on top. It was extremely delicious, and I will definitely make this again. The next dinner is a little bit less healthy. I just made some Japanese yakisoba. So I'm going to start out with 1 large chicken breast. I'm going to just trim the fat a little bit and then butterfly it. I always do this to my chicken breast because I like to work with thin pieces of chicken. Meat kind of freaks me out, so as thin as it can be is the better. So I'm just going to trim this up into kind of slices, not necessarily cubes, and then I will start seasoning it. I'm going to use soy sauce and some General Tso chicken sauce from Trader Joe's to just marinate the chicken before I cook it. So I'm just going to give this a nice mix, and then I'm going to let it sit for about 10 minutes. While that sits, I'm just going to put some egg rolls on a pan. These are like Ming chicken egg rolls. I don't really know. They're just some frozen egg rolls. This went in the oven at about 350 degrees. So then I just put a little bit of oil in the pan. I didn't think I put too much oil, but this chicken was splattering so badly because the pan was so high. It was a real war zone behind this camera, but you wouldn't know. So I'm just going to cook this chicken until it's basically just about all the way cooked through. Once the chicken starts to get pretty much done, I'm just going to add a little bit of a yellow onion and get that cooked in together. Next, I'm going to add in my chopped cabbage. I'm just going to let that wilt down, and then I will also add in my shredded carrots. I did not shred my own carrots. This is just a little bag of organic shredded carrots. So while this is all cooking, I think I should mention I have 2 bags of just regular top ramen cooking in some water, just getting the noodles all cooked. So once the noodles were done, I just added them into my big pan. I really do need a wok, and I definitely need a utensil that people use for yakisoba because this was just not working out that great. I just added a little bit of soy sauce, some garlic, and then I did end up using some more of the General Tao's chicken sauce. So I'm just going to do my best to mix this all together. This is how it looked when it was done. And then we just plated it. I skipped a vegetable on the side like broccoli. It's okay, we survived. The next dinner I made was a garlic butter Parmesan chicken and some potatoes and broccoli. So I'm starting out with my potatoes. I just have some plain russet potatoes. I find that russet potatoes actually last longer in my cabinet pantry area than gold potatoes. I don't know, I could be wrong, but I feel like they do. So I'm just going to cut a couple potatoes into small cubes. I find that I don't use potatoes as much as I would think because I mainly focus on the main dish when I'm meal planning, so I never really think about the side dishes. So I'm going to start seasoning my potatoes. I'm just drizzling a little bit of oil on them. I am using the Flavor Gods seasonings today. I'm using the Hot Wings seasoning, which happened to be really good, and then I'm using the Garlic Lover seasoning, and I'm just going to top it with a little bit of garlic salt. I'm just going to give this a nice mix, and then I'm going to put this on a baking sheet. This will go in the oven at about 350 degrees for like about 20-25 minutes. So while my potatoes were cooking, I got started on my chicken. So I'm going to be doing a dredging station. I just have some flour. I'm going to use the same seasonings to season the flour. I also put a little bit of Parmesan cheese in the flour, and then I'm going to do the same thing to the chicken. Again, I am using only 1 chicken breast. I just butterflied it in half and actually pounded it out a little bit. This was a huge chicken breast, so I'm just going to season the chicken and make sure both sides are nice and coated. For my binding agent, I'm going to use 2 eggs. I'm just going to mix those together. So I'm going to start off with putting the chicken into the flour. I'm just going to coat it nice and light, and then we will be dripping it into the egg. So then I'm going to go back into the flour, and then this will be the coating, and I'll repeat it for the second chicken. So while I'm doing this to the chicken, I have a little bit of oil in a pan heating up, ready to go. I had my pan set on about 4 or 5, which is about a medium. So I'm just going to drop these in and let them cook through, brown on both sides. Once one side is nice and brown and crispy to the touch, clearly I had to touch it, I'm just going to flip them. Once they were done and cooked all the way through, I just dripped off the excess oil. I put it on a cooling, drying rack to make sure all the oil comes off. Once they were both done, I drizzled some garlic butter and then some Parmesan on top. This is how everything looked when it was done. Thank you so much for watching this week's What's for Dinner video. Make sure you come back next week for another one.